If I can have you take your seats, please, we're going to resume. If you could take your seats, please, we're going to resume the program. Thank you. I'm Keith Burton, and I'm very glad to be here along with Ron Culp and Bill Heyman. Were she here tonight, and for that matter, were Don Kirchoffner, who we honor posthumously tonight here, they would both say to us that before we went on that we would make certain that we recognize the people of the Philippines who have suffered through tremendous devastation, loss of life, and a tragedy of the typhoon, and certainly we do that. And while we may feel a world removed, they would also remind us, as they did in their own life and work, that what we can do is really much more than we sometimes think. And I think that would include reaching out, finding the right organizations that will support the needs to get supplies and provisions and the care that's required into the Philippines, which we do so well in our work as communications professionals. So please join with me tonight as we think about that. In that corner there, I think you hear me say every year out of the 4 that we've been here, I sat with Ron Culp and Betsy Plank a few years ago, probably one of the last lunches she enjoyed in this club, the club that she loved, and that frankly she broke the glass ceiling in as she did in so many parts of her life in terms of leadership here. And as we sat in that luncheon that day, she really marveled over the fact of how proud she was of the work of the Plank Center and of the men and women that she has mentored through the years, many of whom are here and who we know. I think that's an important thing for us to consider tonight as we think about the reason for these awards and what really is behind these awards. The Plank Center really was created to support the educators and the students in public relations and frankly their leadership. I was at the PRSSA and PRSA convention in Philadelphia a few weeks ago. I was honored to be there, and I was reminded whenever I saw Betsy Plank that she never stayed in the hotel where the PRSA members stayed. She always stayed with the students and devoted her time and energy really to mentoring those men and women. She would remind us of that tonight were she here, and she would also remind us that it's important for us to honor, as we're doing here, as Ron and Bill and I and the whole board has worked to do, a number of people. We have created through time, as we did in the beginning, a number of awards. First is the Legacy Award. Second is for agency practitioners. Third would be for the young professional, again, coming up through the ranks of PRSSA and beyond. The Bruce Berger Educator Award is one that honors both Dr. Bruce Berger, who has been a part of the founding of the Plank Center, but also continues to be a trustee with us as a part of our work, and certainly one of the great icons of our profession from an educator as well as a professional standpoint. The Corporate Award and our Executive Award really is the capstone for the evening. So we will cover off those awards with you now, and I'm very proud to start with our friend, a beloved friend, Don Kirchoffner, whose photo you see here with us tonight. I say, as I think about this, that it is right that we are here tonight in this place and in this room, and that we celebrated Veterans Day this very week. Don, who we honor again with the Legacy Professional Award, loved Veterans Day. His family knows this. We certainly know that because he reminded us, Rick White and myself, Paul Rabb, so many of us who knew him, always reached out on Veterans Day, but he reminded us to thank a veteran for their work, and certainly that was a part of who Don was. He loved the Union League Club probably more than any member other than Betsy Plank that I know. In fact, he would be here for when he was back in town from Denver. We would meet for breakfast, or we would come down and have lunch together. And it really was a very special place for him, as it is for many who have seen it for the first time tonight, or for those who've come back. There was a time that I began my Saturday mornings at 6 a.m. over breakfast in Naperville, the suburb outside of Chicago, with Don, where we both live. I would arrive at the restaurant early to find Don in our regular corner booth before anyone else arrived at the restaurant, and he had the New York Times already spread before him, and there was coffee, a lot of coffee. I would take my appointed seat because he sat where he wanted to sit, and then I sat in my seat, and he would quietly, after I sat down and not acknowledge me at that time, would take off his glasses. He would greet me with a wonderful smile, and he would say, "Good morning. Now you have my full attention." And I really knew he meant that, and he did, because we would launch into a long conversation about life, family, work, faith, politics, and our shared hopes for the future. I really love those Saturdays, and I will think about that this week because I live in that downtown area, and I will walk down that way, as I always do. Don Kirchoffner was a giant in the public relations professional, for those who didn't know him. I'm sad you didn't. While he was a soldier at heart, he was a consummate practitioner of our craft. He knew what it meant to take the hill, and he was skilled at leading others and very accomplished in leading the mission. Over more than 2 decades, I made these comments a few months ago, he was the reasoned voice and counselor at the center of some of the biggest events of our time. He was there for the U.S. invasion of Kuwait in 1991. He was there for the Kurdish relief operations in northern Iraq. He was there for the riots at Rock, Los Angeles in the 90s. He was there dealing with the devastation and recovery efforts that were associated with Hurricane Andrew. He was there when there were challenges that the American Red Cross faced with our nation's blood and tissue supplies. He was there when there were crippling power outages that threatened the reputation of Commonwealth Edison and Exelon here in Chicago. And he was there tackling threats to the reputation of the Centers for Disease Control during a critical period of reorganization of that great organization. As a past president of the PRSA and our fellow Planck Center trustee and our friend Gary McCormick said about Don, Don was the real power behind the power as he counseled commanding generals, CEOs, and government leaders. And for these efforts, he was honored widely in our profession. He was inducted into the Army Public Affairs Hall of Fame. He was named Professional of the Year by our great Chicago Public Relations Society of America chapter. He was inducted into the PRSA College of Fellows. He became a member of the prestigious Arthur W. Page Society, where he joined peers at the highest level. He served as an at-large member of the National PRSA Board, representing more than 30,000 professional, academic, military, and student members, which is, in my mind, a true distinction. And this year, he was honored posthumously with the Joe Galloway Lifetime Achievement Award for his work on behalf of the Army Public Affairs Group. Recognition certainly is important for all of us, and while it was for Don too, what he valued most, I found in Betsy Planck. He valued those who were with him on these journeys more than the honors that came so easily to him. He knew no strangers. In fact, upon his death earlier this year, our friend, Denver PR professional Paul Rabb, said about Don, he was a good man, but he was a better friend. It came as no surprise to us that after only a year in Denver, at the time this event occurred, Don was honored with the prestigious Swede Johnson Lifetime Achievement Award for his work in honoring PR professionals in that local PRSA chapter. He was a man of humility. He was also a man who did not suffer fools gladly. He set the bar high. He encouraged all of us to do the same and to do our best. He had deeply held values, ethics, integrity, and a commitment to always acting with transparency and guiding his thinking and actions around these principles. He cared deeply about young men and women in the business, and he always went out of his way, and I saw it, to help others in their job searches. There are many, many who have gone on to greater leadership thanks to that guidance and coaching. Thomas Jefferson wrote words that remind me of Don often. Quote, "In matters of style, swim with the current. In matters of principle, stand like a rock." That defined Don. Love, character, devotion, humility, honor, courage, faith, may these be at the center of our lives every day, are words that Don Kirchoffner once gave me. They were for Don. Please join me in recognizing Don and welcoming his family tonight.
Thank you. I'd first like to thank Keith Burton and Dr. Gower for making this happen and for helping to bring my family together so that we could celebrate this honor. My sister and I often joke that we abhor public speaking, and we question how we were ever related to someone who made it a part of his everyday life and did it so well. When we were told that we were receiving this award, she said to me, "You're on your own. This is your speech to give." Go figure that this is a speech in front of a bunch of PR folks, so I ask that you bear with me. It was a little over 8 years ago when I graduated from college and began to search for my first job. My resume had been written since Christmas time, a nice leather portfolio had been purchased, and close to 20 resumes had been printed and nicely stored in that portfolio, all courtesy of my dad. He took me to Ann Taylor, he bought me 3 suits, which I still have today, and set up close to 10 networking interviews with all of his friends here in Chicago. After each meeting, he would drill me and ask me what my next steps were going to be. I remember my first real interview as if it was yesterday. My dad waited for me at the corner bakery in my building. 3 days later, I was offered the job. I still work there 8 years later, and I have him to thank. I wish I had told him how much I looked up to him, especially when it came to his work. He loved people, he loved to network, and he genuinely loved to help others. I received a note from a dear friend of mine about a month ago, Jess Brubaker, who's actually here tonight. And it said, "I was thinking of your dad today, and I am so grateful for his help. I would not be where I am today without him." I know that there are several others out there that could say the same thing about him. I think of him often, every single day, not just because we were best friends, but professionally, he was my mentor. So much of who I've become professionally was shaped by him. I was reading an old PR article with his Dawn-isms, and I had a great laugh. I'll leave you with a few of my favorites that should still be practiced today. Be a mentor and a teacher. Seek a mentor. Help someone who is looking for a job. You'll be looking yourself one day, and remember to say thank you. Always have a fresh and well-done resume. Be well-dressed and well-groomed. You only get one chance to make a first impression. I've taken this piece of advice very seriously, to the detriment of our bank account. You can ask my husband. And our favorite Dawn-ism, which he so often preached, today's peacock is tomorrow's feather duster. I think I can speak for my entire family that we are so very proud of him. We, his family, all hope he is looking down and is as proud of us as we are of him. Thank you.
Let me ask Don's family to come up. Come up. So that you know who you have in front of you, you have Megan Krause, Megan Kirchoffner, Jill Kirchoffner, Matt Kirchoffner, and Elaine Kirchoffner, Don's wife. Please give them a big round of applause. Thank you very much. We're now going to move on to our next award, which will be recognizing our agency professional. And so we'll invite up, again, Christine Alpert to handle that for us.
Hi, good evening. My name is Christine Albert, and it's my honor to be here tonight to recognize someone who is both a colleague, a friend, and a mentor, John Deveney. Hey. And I stand before you as one person, but I want you to picture hundreds of people standing here with me who would also call John their mentor. During his 25 years in public relations, John has been recognized for his leadership and professional excellence by countless organizations. But just to name a few, PR News recognized him as the Agency Executive of the Year, and Bulldog Reporter named him Agency Professional of the Year. From handling a post-Katrina media center to managing the state of Louisiana's state tourism's response to the BP oil spill, which reshaped public perception and preserved Louisiana's tourism industry, John Deveney is a talented leader and a talented strategist. But tonight we're here to recognize him for something equally as important, and that is for being a wonderful mentor. And I only have a few minutes, so I will ease up on the accolades, because I'd like to share a personal story about John with you. I first met him when I was an eager 20-year-old intern in college, starting her first internship at his firm in New Orleans. And when I interviewed, he asked if I had any areas of public relations that I was especially interested in. And I replied, crisis communication. And John wisely said that he'd keep that in mind, but crises are really impossible to predict. So the next day, my phone rang, and it was John calling because it was my lucky day. Someone had a crisis. And so I spent the entire weekend at the office working alongside, learning from and watching John. And that was the first of many times I've had the pleasure to do that. At that time, I was just a 20-year-old young intern, but he took the time to talk to me like I was a peer and also to work collaboratively. And today, John and I still work on crises, except now I have the benefit of being the client who calls him instead of the intern working for him. So from that first weekend of my internship to my current role at a growing healthcare system in New Orleans, John has been a part of my career progression every single step of the way. And I know I'm just one of countless people who could say that about John. He is an unwavering mentor, a peer, and a friend. He is never too busy to offer advice, to be a sounding board, strategize, or just be a resource for those around him. And he gives freely of his time, talent, and expertise to help develop the next generation of PR professionals. So John, I'm very proud to be here tonight with you as you're honored for this well-deserved award.
This is me. Thank you, Christine. Thank you, everyone. What an incredible and special evening this is. In addition to saying thank you for this incredible award, I think it also seems most fitting for me to express gratitude for all the mentoring, the guidance, the support that I've received. That guidance has empowered me to take opportunities, to build, to grow, to challenge myself. And without others, many of them in this room, supporting me and encouraging me, I wouldn't have had the opportunities or taken the chances that I would. So I am appreciative of the award, but even more appreciative of and grateful for the support and mentorship I've received. An award of mentorship really is the pinnacle of success, because mentoring is the one thing we do that will live past us and that will grow far beyond anything that our solitary work could do. Mentorship is our opportunity to truly pass on and help others do more than we could do alone. And coming from an organization like the Planck Center makes this award all the richer. From Betsy, who so persuasively inspired all of us toward mentorship. She called not just students and young professionals to embrace and seek mentors, but she challenged and called everyone, even the most seasoned professionals, to participate in this process that can live and grow beyond us. and to get it from the Planck Center and the amazing leaders who are truly accomplishing the remarkable. They are building a legacy even greater than that which Betsy did herself. They are creating a better profession, and they are creating the best possible professionals to lead that profession. And so I think we should all applaud and thank Betsy posthumously and the Planck Center collectively. These awards, we're told, are for those that lead by example. And candidly, now that I have the award and I can grip it firmly and know it won't be taken from me, I'll say that I think I'm more an example of someone that has benefited from mentorship, that has benefited from a generosity of spirit and time and guidance given from others. My entire career, and by extension my life actually, has been focused and advanced by the generosity of others. In the term of mentorship, frequently we'll think of bosses or colleagues, someone that we worked with, someone that trained or tutored us. But also some of the best mentors I have been competitors and people in the industry, but also industry resources like the Planck Center, like industry publications and conferences and award activities. But I think if we reflect on our own lives, we also know that the greatest mentors, and think of a mentor as someone that guides and encourages and supports us, are also our loved ones. So I want to especially thank my loved ones, those that are here with me tonight, and many that could not be. I would love to have the ability to somehow draw out the family members that I have here tonight, but they're quiet groups, so that's beyond my abilities. I'll also say that this is not so much as an acceptance as it is a commitment, that I promise that I will refocus and redouble my efforts to be a better mentor, to be a better professional, to be a better colleague, to be a better partner and cousin and nephew, and to help others the way I have been so generously helped. So thank you very much. This is an incredible honor. And I also want to thank all the people that have made this night so special. It's been a perfect evening, and this is an incredible honor. So thank you all.
Before Rachel Sprung joins us to introduce the next honoree, just a couple of comments. I was with Jim Spangler of Navistar earlier today, and he looked at me as we were getting ready for the afternoon and said, you know, I really look forward to this evening. It's one of my favorite evenings because I get to see people I've really looked forward to seeing for a year, and Jim has been with us for all of these events. But I have to honor you, really, as we think about this event. For 4 years, as Ron said, we've had 4 sellout events. After this event, we will have raised about $200,000, all of which goes back in profit to programming, to grants, to scholarship efforts that we really work to support in the name of Betsy Planck and the Planck Center on behalf of mentoring, which is very important. So I would ask you to give yourself a real round of applause for all the support you've given on this evening. Rachel Sprung now will join us.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rachel Sprung, and it's an honor to be here tonight to present the Young Professional Mentor of the Year Award to Nick Lucido. Let's go back a couple years. Nick Lucido was a pure SSA legend before I met him. He was 19, 20 years old, and had already made an impact on so many people's lives. He was so well respected that I heard all about him all the way from Boston, even though he was in Michigan. When I finally met him, it felt like I was meeting a celebrity. I would soon find out why. I was fortunate enough to be on the PRSSA National Committee the year that Nick was elected president. He is a born leader, always empowering his committee to make big decisions. I would always go to him looking for advice, but first he would ask me, "What do you think about this?" instead of telling me what to do, he would work through the problems with me and help me come to a conclusion. He always made sure that the committee knew that he trusted their decisions. As a result, his committee grew from college students unsure of their next steps into young professionals ready for the real world. But Nick's leadership skills extend beyond his close circle of friends and even beyond the National Committee. No matter what situation he's in or what role he's thrown into, he always finds a way to empower others. So now I'm going to take you to a personal story of when Nick visited me in Boston in October of 2011. At the time, HubSpot, the marketing software company I work for, was working on a team-building flash mob to the tune of Michael Jackson's Thriller. The only problem was no one at the company knew how to do the dance. Enter Nick, who had done the dance during his time on the National Committee during the roll call. For those of you who have been to a PRSSA roll call, there's always a big dance at the beginning to a PRSSA-themed parody. So he happily agreed to help out the company, but I left out a few details. So it actually happened that instead of teaching the company in one time, it was back-to-back 1-hour sessions for 6 hours. But he didn't stop smiling the entire time, and it was a success. They did ask us if he was a professional choreographer, though, and we let them know that he in fact worked at Edelman. When I heard about the opportunity to nominate Nick for this award, I dropped everything to do it. So many people look up to him, and he's made an impact on so many people. He is selfless. He just deserves this award more than anyone. He gives the greatest career advice, whether you're looking to advance your career or just navigate a work situation. He has spent hours with me, helping me grow personally and professionally. Nick has achieved so much in his own career, but the impact he has had on countless other young professionals is astounding. Thank you, Nick, for all that you do. There really isn't anyone who deserves this more than you.
So I know what you're thinking, and I'm not going to dance for you. No. So actually, this is my third event here, and I remember coming here 3 years ago and meeting people whose names were on the doors of agencies and just legends around here. And I thought that after a few years, I would be able to kind of contain myself and collect myself still. And still, it's just, I feel so honored and so humbled to be among so many amazing people. So, and especially to win this award is just such an incredible feeling for me. So when it comes to mentorship, something that I've learned is that it really does take a village. So in that village, there are people like Rachel that you have the privilege of calling your mentee, but the reality is those kinds of people teach you more than you probably give them, and I think that's kind of the beauty of mentorship. So it's just, it's an amazing feeling. There's also the mentors who help guide you in your own career and encourage you to give back as much as they give to you. For me, I have what feels like an army of incredible people helping guide me in my career and encourage me to give back as much as they give me. So the reality is that Village also needs an income. And there are organizations that help its employees not only grow and develop as much as possible, but also promote an environment of mentorship and active citizenship in this profession. For me, that's exactly what I have at Edelman, and I'm grateful to call myself an Edelman employee. I'm proud of the client work that I'm part of, but I'm even more proud of the fact that I can be an active citizen of the industry, and Edelman gives me the time to give me the time to be part of this, the future of the profession, and I'm so grateful for that. So with each success in my very short career that I've had thus far, especially comparatively to this room, I can directly attribute all of that help and those small successes that I've had to my mentors who have been behind me, and I'm grateful for that. So to me, this award really reflects the time and energy that I've put into mentorship thus far. But like John, I think this recognition truly is a challenge for me. It's a challenge that will push me to continue supporting and mentoring the future of the profession and throughout the rest of my career. So thank you to the Planck Center and especially the board for this honor and your tremendous example. I'm inspired by all of you and all of you who continue to take so much time out of your day to be part of mentorship and give back to people like me. So I appreciate it and thank you very much.
What a great evening. You guys are just terrific to do this and give us a chance to get together once a year. Congratulations, Keith and Ron, Carla, everyone who had a part in putting this great night together. If you look at your program, they say that we're up to the fourth presenter here, and I can see who the first three were by looking at the program. But ladies and gentlemen, I am your mystery presenter. Well, my name is Bruce Harrison, and I'm here with a great opportunity to take part in this event and to introduce the winner of this year's Bruce K. Berger Award to an outstanding educator, an extraordinary guide to a lot of people, a friend to all of us, and a mentor to a number of individuals. And tonight, what I will do, rather than go through the biography of Judy VanSlyke Turk, which appears in your program, I'm going to try to bring you some of the comments from some of those who have been mentored, the mentees who are remembering Judy and who sent in some information. The reason my name isn't in here is that this should be done by Maria, and Maria just couldn't get here tonight. But Maria, later on, I'll quote what some of her remarks might have been. Well, Judy VanSlyke Turk, PhD, who's just recently stepped down as director of the School of Mass Communication at Virginia Commonwealth University. So now, Professor Emerita Turk, I'm going to go through some of the accomplishments that we have evidence of through emails that I've received. Well, before she joined VCU in 2002, Judy has just switched on a lot of communications enlightenment, not only in the U.S., but like all over the world. She's been everywhere. She has helped to bring along communication and journalism, part of her background. Most recently, before VCU, in the United Arab Emirates, she was the founding dean of the College of Communication and Media Sciences at Zayed University, and she did that for nearly 3 years. She had gone to the Middle East from South Carolina, where she had been at the University of South Carolina as dean of the Journalism and Mass Communication College. And before that, Kent State, South Carolina, University of Oklahoma, Louisiana State University, and her launch in teaching and perhaps mentoring at the college level at Syracuse University. At this point, I'd like to throw in two names, including Maria, of very important people. Maria Russell, who we know now is the chair of the PR program at Syracuse, couldn't be here tonight, but she sent along this message. That is, Judy, I am such a fan of yours. I am forever grateful for your generosity, your advice, your political savvy, and in guiding me over some 25 plus years. And this is the part where I guess you wanted me to read this. Judy Turk also has the best, the most wicked sense of humor. So maybe tonight you can use some of your wicked sense of humor when you're up here. Well, she wishes, that Maria wishes she could be here. So that's VIP number one. VIP number two is my daughter Courtney, who went to Syracuse and was mentored by Maria. As one of the earlier speakers talked about how we got this chain of mentoring as it passes through the profession. So from Judy to Maria to my daughter Courtney, and I should have called Courtney up out in California to ask her to say something here, but she didn't. But I know she would be appreciative of the advice outside of what Dad was giving her over the years while she was in that very potent learning curve while in college. So back to some other highlights. And that is that Judy is the past president of the Association of Schools of Journalism and Mass Communication, like putting that together, journalism and mass communication, which is what she and I both had some experience in. I was a newspaper reporter, came to Washington as a press secretary, and she was, for a while, a professional with Associated Press, and she was brilliant in that role, so she got to be head of the Association of Journalism and Mass Communication. And Maria, in her email to me, just underscored the fact that very few, if any, women had ever been elected to head up that organization. That journalists always grab that title. You know how pushy we journalists are. So the fact that she had that role is, again, another indication of the influence, the prowess, the intelligence, and the leadership that, that Judy possesses and has passed on. She's the outstanding woman. She was, in last year, the outstanding woman in journalism education, getting the award from that journalism communication group. That was in 2006 that she got that. So writer, lecturer, teacher, mentor. I mentioned Middle East, also in Eastern Europe, the Baltics, Russia, Asia. I think if we could turn up the applause monitor meter in all those countries, we'd be blown away by the approbation that that is out there, like around the world, because of Judy. And let's see. Oh, hold on. Here's another one. This just in. Elizabeth Toth, this came in from Dr. Toth, who won this recognition last year. Elizabeth, you here? You're not here. Oh, well, she won it last year, but she sent a note to, from her role now. She's University of Maryland, heading up the Department of Communication. Elizabeth said, to tell you, your accomplishments, Judy, served as an example to me as to what it means to be a leader, someone who uses her talents and her ideas not only to lead, but to achieve a vision on behalf of an organization of other leaders. And that's what leaders do. Leaders create other leaders. And each of us, when we do any mentoring, we are putting ourselves in the position, Greg Elliott will take credit for this one, he kind of taught me this, that we are all stakeholders in the success of other people. So that doing that, just spending your life, or part of your life, the important parts of your life, and being a stakeholder in somebody else's success, well, that's Judy VanSlyke Turk. And this one, actually, Judy herself asked, did I get the email from Mona? Mona was a Chinese student that, that Judy taught, and here's like a two-page memo. I'll read a couple of paragraphs. Went on and on. A really excellent, wonderful memo. I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you, Judy. It says that Judy and I used to quote an old Chinese saying to describe our relationship, which is, quote, friendship between generations and regardless of any age gap is what matters. Now, I'd like to add that she's more than a family because she shares the friendship, which is not often seen in a Chinese family. I guess she knows that. In addition, she's more than a friend, as she always plays the perfect role as a great mentor. She says, congratulations on the award, Judy. I'm very happy for you. And I'm sure Miss Dolan, who is Miss Dolan? Your dog. All right, I'm sure that your dog is very proud of you, too. So with that, Judy.
Thank you so much. That was perfect of you to do that. Thank you so much.
All right. And this is the award. Let me get out of your way.
Super cool.
Okay.
All right.
You want to take our picture? Let's do this.
Just
Go, hon. Let me have this part.
I first want to thank the Planck Center for this great honor. It was a complete surprise to me and very, very gratifying in that. I'm very grateful for the students, the faculty colleagues, the professional practitioners who allowed me to enter into their professional careers. Some of them since the time they were students in my classes, way back in like 1980. And to see them grow and become leaders in their own right today is probably one of the best rewards of having been a mentor to them. I also want to say how much I appreciate Bruce stepping in at the last minute and doing the honors for Maria, who had planned to be here until a week ago, when you all know what happens when work crises arise, had to remain in Syracuse. So Bruce, thank you for being that, where are you? The anonymous, the anonymous introducer. And I have to tell you a little something about Maria and I. We've had a relationship back to when I was a faculty member at Syracuse and talked her into coming and teaching part-time for us. And then when I accepted a job at Louisiana State University and was moving on, I convinced her that she should apply for my vacant position. She did, and she got the position, and she is still there, and that's now, I'm not even going to do the math. Some days, she thanks me profusely for giving her the entree to that opportunity, and there are other days when she is cursing me. I also want to give an extra special thank you to Betsy for having created this wonderful center. I came to Chicago quite often for various accrediting meetings, and every time I was in town, I would call Betsy and say, Betsy, can we get together while I'm here? And it was her favorite venue to bring me to lunch or dinner here. And I can also remember back in probably about 1977 when I was a rookie corporate public relations employee at the now defunct, long defunct, Continental Illinois Bank and Trust Company, that I was asked one day by my boss, Jerry Boldak, who some of you may know, and by the way, he was one of my great mentors. There was something that needed to get to Roger Anderson, the chairman of the board, very urgently. He was at a luncheon meeting here at the Union League Club, and so I was asked if I would take this envelope to him. So walked down the street. Our offices were just at Wells and Jackson. Walked down the street and just blithely walked in the front door, and I was met by a concierge who said to me, excuse me, madam, you must use the women's entrance. And I said, but I'm here to deliver something to the chairman of the bank. And he said, madam, I will show you to the ladies' lounge where you can wait while I deliver the message for you. So Betsy was one of the first people who came here as a member when membership was open to women and who really participated in the progress that the club has made. So both because Betsy was a special friend and also because of what she did, she was probably the most important mentor I could have had in my entire career. Thank you all very much. This is a real honor, and I am so grateful to be in the presence of all of you who I know are mentors, and the people you have mentored will pay it forward. I'm sure of that.
Good evening. My name is David Berger, and I lead communications at State Farm, and it's my great pleasure to be here to honor my friend and my mentor, Mike Fernandez. And, you know, I was looking at a list of all the men and women that Mike has mentored through the years, and I won't read the list to you, but it was remarkable to me the range of ages and the range of accomplishments, from people that were even now still starting out in their career to people that were leading communication enterprises at big brands, me included. And you can read about Mike in your handout. I just wanted to share 3 stories that hopefully illustrate the kind of mentor that Mike has been for me and for many others. And hopefully there's some lessons in there about mentorship. The first thing is that Mike gave me an opportunity. 20 years ago, I was in television, in the media, like a lot of you perhaps in the room, and I introduced myself to Mike, and Mike had a speech that he needed written on the business case for diversity. And he knew that I was covering a trial as a television reporter, and he was like, are you sure you've got time with all this trial stuff to, you know, write a speech about the business case of diversity? And I was faking my way through it, because to me diversity was like, you know, Dave, when you do man on the street interviews, make sure you get a representation of different age. I mean, I was not schooled in some of these higher-minded thoughts at the time. But Mike gave me an opportunity, and it was the beginning of many great things. The second thing that Mike did for me, and probably for others as a mentor, is that he gave me the opportunity to bite off more than I could chew. And early on, we were in the speechwriting department together at Kodak, and for whatever reason, he decided to assign me one of the toughest internal clients to write speeches for. I won't share his name, but his initials were SS, if that tells you anything. And I remember writing that first speech, and in those days, you know, you'd print it out, and they would you know, have pen marks on the speech. And as I was flipping through every page, the pen was deeper and deeper into the paper. And then by page 7, I still have it committed to memory. I'm going to frame it in my office one of these days, but this client said, "This speech just stinks, and you can quote me on that." And, you know, I was in a puddle of tears at the time, but I learned so much because I had the opportunity to take on big, tough assignments, and Mike believed in me to be able to do that. The final story I'll share, we also worked together at one of the Bell companies in the later 90s, and we were involved in a labor dispute. And there was one evening where a customer had a young child in distress and tried calling 911. And this was right in the middle of the strike, and 911 wasn't responsive, and the child ended up dying, unfortunately. And, you know, I was the spokesman at the time for the company, and I was doing interviews all night long and into the morning, and it was really difficult. And Mike, as a mentor, stood by me that whole night through and into the next morning. He didn't do anything. He was just there as a steadying force to help me get through a very difficult time. So the bottom line is, Mike believed in me. And I think, you know, as we all go off into the world, you know, hopefully our parents believe in us, but as we go into the world, we hope that, will somebody else believe in me? Because for any of us to believe in ourselves, it really helps if somebody else believes in you. And Mike believed in me and believed in many others, and I'm just so glad that I could say personally thank you and congratulations on this honor. Mike Fernandez.
I still believe in David. I just don't get to write his performance appraisals any longer. But this is really a real treat and honor. And, you know, special thanks to the Planck Center, particularly those of you on the Board of Advisors, for I'm truly humbled by this act and this recognition, in large part because you just heard it. David said I did nothing. But no, tonight I'm reminded by the words of one of my favorite mentors who's also in the room, and that's my dear wife, Pat Fernandez. Before any of our kids would take on a new adventure, before they'd go off to college, before they'd do almost anything at all, before they went out that door, she would consistently, almost every time, say, make good choices. My vantage with David and other marketing and PR professionals who I've had the great joy to work with and mentor, some of whom, as David suggested, have gone on to actually lead the PR or marketing functions in their companies today. They really are proof positive, not so much about my mentoring, but about good choices. After more than 30 years as a professional communicator, I am the one who feels much more the mentee than the mentor. Because each one of those individuals that I believed in, they provided something greatly in return to me. For these were truly bright and talented people, and we see it from their careers as they've gone on. And making good choices, when you stop and think about it, in a world fraught with diversions and distractions, challenges and change, it's not very easy. But as good communicators, public relations and marketing pros, that is precisely our task and uniquely our responsibility. As we sit at the balance between the publics and our companies, in a world where we are all developing paid, owned, and earned media faster than we can think about it, it is all too easy to overwhelm our audiences than truly communicate with them, let alone be understood by them. It is all too easy to be seduced by social media, responding and interacting ad infinitum in cute and clever ways to every audacious come on, than to truly serve the interests of our companies, our customers, and the public at large. And it is all too easy, as IPG's Harris Diamond reminded some of us in a speech last night in Miami, to succumb to the drumbeat for big data. But at what point does the line blur, or is the line crossed from big data to Big Brother? I can't stand here tonight and say with confidence that I have it all figured out, or where the future will be for new channels, new media technology, or data analysis for the next 30 years. But from what I've seen over my last 30 years, and confirmed actually by global travels over the last 3 years with Cargill, meeting with customers, employees, farmers, ranchers, government officials, public policy makers, NGOs, academics, and professional colleagues, including many in this room. It is that the object of our work in this profession is not the management of a situation, but of an institution, and that institution's very character. You see, the world is increasingly social, not just social media, but customers, consumers, public policy makers, all publics expect more from us and expect to have a relationship with us and the brands and products they interact with. And that world is open 24/7, and it is global. Citibank used to advertise, and many of you will recall, the city never sleeps. Today, the world never sleeps, and the dialogue never ends. Smart organizations and smart leaders, as a consequence, are not simply communicating on the old-fashioned sense of communications, where we drove messages and expected the world to stop and listen. Or even slightly more advanced, having a dialogue in hopes of improving one's reputation. Jim Grunig, 30 years ago, referred to it as two-way symmetrical communications model. Today, at Arthur Page Society, with its work on the new model, we call it shared belief. But it is built from active engagement, greater transparency, and a focus on the longer term, not simply communication. We owe it to the institutions we serve to engage not only our friends, but in many instances, our very foes. And rather than seeking to undermine, we must struggle to understand, and at times even find ways for controversy to seed to common understanding and even common action. And as we sustain that, we build confidence and trust among all parties. My Cuban grandfather would put it, del dicho el hecho a gran trecho. Said and done are worlds apart. This requires real work. This requires real commitment. This also requires much more transparency on the part of most of our institutions than ever before. That raises the bar for all of us to more readily share what is in our products, how they are processed, where and how they are sourced, and what the environmental impact might be. As Cargill's chairman, Greg Page, is fond of saying, and who I would add, I saw on the internet, the summit, at least part of the summit today, they talked about the humane citizen CEO. He'd be the archetype. But what he likes to say, and remind me of, and remind our team of, is that in a world where nothing can be hidden, you better not have anything to hide. Think about that for a moment. The truly great communicators in this new model are as much about tomorrow as they are about today. The best of these companies, many in this room, we have some customers in this room, McDonald's, a few others, find common cause with others and pursue long-term issues like sustainability, responsible supply chains, food security, and the like, not because they are easy issues, but because they matter. It's not even that it is in vogue or that a particular NGO or public policy maker desires it. No, they pursue it because they truly want to do what is ethical, sometimes courageous, and most of the time in the best interest of all parties. In short, they are the activist corporations that have committed themselves to sustain the future. So yes, at the end of the day, to do well in this profession, as I tell a lot of young people, It will still require good writing skills, critical thinking, great curiosity about this world, business acumen, and the ability to influence. But first and foremost, it will be about deciding to do something more than just being a good communicator. It will require greater sense of activism and making good choices. To the Board of Advisors, I hope you've made a good choice. In conferring this on me, I am indeed very proud of it and humbled by it. Thank you. You still can't get rid of the grip and grin.
The anchor leg of the relay. My name is Jack Rooney, and I'm a member of the leadership team of the Ogilvy and Mather office here in Chicago. I'm going to introduce to you Shelly Lazarus. In thinking about being a mentee, a few traits come to mind. You would want, as a mentor, to be somebody who can give advice, somebody who can lend a friendly ear, and also somebody who could ideally model the kind of behavior and success to which your mentee could aspire. But I actually think that there's perhaps something that sets a really great mentor apart from a simply good mentor, and that is somebody who can see in a particular moment that something really needs to be said and something really needs to be heard so that the mentor can really have a significant influence in that instance on the mentee. So I'm going to tell you a story about Shelly. And I am an Ogilvy and Mather prodigal son, in that I left and have obviously returned. And I'm one of actually many prodigal sons and daughters of our company. It's actually, I don't know if it's a proud tradition, but it's certainly a tradition of people who leave and come back. And we're happy about the fact that we leave the front door unlocked for most of our departed partners. And I left Ogilvy for family reasons that had absolutely nothing to do with the agency back in 2002, and one of the last people that I spoke with before I left was Shelly. And she was wonderfully gracious and very understanding of the decision that I had made, and the last thing that she said to me was, "You'll be back someday." And I said, well, I'm humbled by that, but obviously when you leave, you don't leave thinking you're going to come back someday. So I became the CEO of Campbell Methuen up in Minneapolis, and I was up there very happily minding my own business. Things were going well. The agency was doing well, and I received a call one day from one of my former partners at Ogilvy, a gentleman by the name of Bill Gray, who said, Jack, we want to talk to you about the notion of coming back. And I said, oh, Bill, I'm up here in Minneapolis, things are going well, I don't really, so I resisted, and he persisted, and so the conversation began, and I continued to resist, again, not for anything having to do with Ogilvy, but for the true sense of commitment that I had to the job that I had with Campbell Methuen. But Bill could sort of sense that the hook was possibly drifting closer to my mouth as this went on, so he said to me, listen, Shelly would like to have dinner with you. And I said, oh, come on, Bill, that's not playing fair. I'll never get out of there alive. So I said, okay, you know, I don't have anything to lose. So I went in and I met Shelly, and we had dinner. And as a good mentor would, she listened to what I had to say and took in the fact that I was resisting the notion. And then, sort of at the moment of truth, she said, Jack, we have more leadership needs than we have leaders, and it's time for you to come home. Here I am, 7 years later, I'm home, the prodigal son of Ogilvy and Mather, and a grateful mentee of somebody who knew exactly what to say so that exactly what needed to be heard was heard indeed by me, and I'm grateful to her for that. Ladies and gentlemen, Shelly Lazarus.
I'm so glad Jack is home. Thank you, Jack, for the kind words, and congratulations to all my fellow honorees. You are clearly amazing. I'm very honored to be standing up here tonight to receive the Planck Center Executive Mentorship Award. But to be honest, I was not familiar with the award until Bill Heyman approached me about it. But as soon as I heard what it was for, and the person it was named after, I could not say no. Betsy, I wish I had known you. I feel I know you from tonight. And now for a little more honesty, I have to tell you that I have never thought of myself as a mentor, ever. Not at least in the formal sense of the word. If I am a mentor, it is just the byproduct of the way I work and lead teams. You know, I've had a fascinating career. I've had a fabulous career. One of the primary reasons is that I've had the chance to learn from so many great leaders. I mean, don't you feel that, all of you, is in the business that we work in, we work with so many amazing people, clients, colleagues. To me, they have all been, in some sense, my mentors. I've always been a keen observer and eager learner. I've always asked a lot of questions, some people say too many questions, and gotten some wonderful answers from these same clients and colleagues along the way. I've learned from all of them, and in a sense, I've had hundreds of mentors. But if I had to single out one person who has had a lasting influence on me, it would be the founder of the agency where I have stayed for over 40 years. David Ogilvy himself. When I was about to become the global CEO of Ogilvy, I went to spend some time with David at his chateau in France. He has this fabulous chateau near Poitiers. He was retired at the time, but still very close to the agency. I wanted all the advice that David could give me, and I remember it was March, it was cold, it was windy, it was nasty, and all that we really could do was talk. We sat by the fire and talked. We walked by the river and talked. We walked up into the trees and talked. He said many wise and wonderful things. He made me laugh a lot, and he made me a little less terrified of the responsibility, a little more sure that I could carry forth his legacy, because his message was simple. Of all the things we talked about, I remember most what he said about people. He said that as much time as he had spent in his career being concerned about the people in the agency, recruiting them, making sure they were happy, he said in retrospect, it wasn't enough. He said to me, you can never spend too much time thinking about, worrying about, caring about your people, because at the end of the day, it's only the people who matter, nothing else. And David said, if I had to do it over again, I would spend all my time on people. David understood inherently that in our business, we're only as good as the people we can attract, keep, and make successful. You know, it's often said, the people with the best people in our business win. His genius, David's genius, was in taking a very strong point of view about how to run an organization, and from that point of view, developing a set of principles, a set of beliefs, of values that became the culture of Ogilvy, culture. And he inculcated that culture in the people. He ensured that the values, principles, and beliefs were passed down from generation to generation, with the result that the culture, David's culture, has stood the test of time and is as strong now, if not stronger, as the time when David actually walked the halls himself. David was always teaching. How did that happen? It's because he was always teaching. And isn't that what mentoring is all about? He instituted training programs, he gave speeches, he wrote books and countless memos to the people who worked at his agency, reminding us all of the beliefs of the company. I remember being called to a presentation by David only weeks after I was first hired. It was for all new employees, one-on-one, the founder at the front, and the newbies. David was determined. You could not go for longer than 1 month without coming to this presentation. He was determined that within the first month of joining Ogilvy, each new employee would hear directly from him, quote, everything I know and have learned about advertising. 2 hours of David telling you everything that he knew and had learned about advertising. Do I remember that presentation from 1971? You bet, almost every word. David wrote a memo to the Ogilvy board in 1978 that was titled, A Teaching Hospital. In it, he said he had found a new metaphor for the agency. He made this case. Great hospitals do 2 things. They look after patients, and they teach young doctors. Ogilvy and Mather does 2 things. We look after clients, and we teach young advertising people. To this day at Ogilvy, we still consider ourselves the teaching hospital of the advertising world. That is a blueprint for mentorship. I personally learned the value of mentorship when I started my very first job. I was the first woman to ever be employed by the Maxwell House division, by General Foods in general. I worked in the Maxwell House division. Yes, it was good. There's a better story. It was during the time of the Vietnam War. On my first day of work, I learned that both the assistant product manager and the associate product manager had been offered a place in the Army Reserves, which meant they had to leave to go to a base to train for 5 months. I, an intern, was expected to do both their jobs until they returned. 1 woman doing the job of 3 people, 2 men, that's right. I said yes. You know we can do that, right? I said yes, but with one request. I didn't know anything, right? I had never worked. I had just been to Columbia Business School for a year. If my boss would agree to sit down with me at the end of each day to answer all the questions I had come up with during the day, every day, I would agree to do the job of 3 people. And he did. Every day I came in at 6 o'clock with my yellow pad filled with questions, and he would sit with me until they were all answered. It was a lifetime of learning crammed into 3 months. From then on, I never hesitated, ever, to go see people, to ask each one of them why they did something or how they went about something. In turn, I always make time for the people I work with. My door is always open. I believe the purpose of mentorship is to inspire the next generation, to make them want to be leaders, to believe they can be leaders. This is the reason I rarely turn down an opportunity to speak at colleges and universities. If the observations, experience, and advice I have gathered over my 40 years in business can help just 1 person in the audience, 1 young person, make him or her feel that he or she can be successful, want to be successful, that is enough for me. I spoke at a conference in London last year to an audience of women in the advertising industry. At the end of the conference, as I was walking out the door, actually, I was already out the door. I was on the sidewalk, about to step into my car to leave. A woman came running up to me. She was literally panting. She ran after me, she's panting. She was also almost practically in tears. And she said to me, "I just want to tell you that you just changed my life. I'm a mother of 2 young children. I was planning to walk into my boss's office." She worked for Leo Burnett. I remember that. "I was planning to walk into my boss's office tomorrow morning and quit. It's just too hard. But now, having heard your story and what you said about how to find balance in your life, I've changed my mind. I'm not going to quit. If you can do it, I can do it." I simply hugged her. That was worth the world to me. That, in that moment, was for me the value of mentorship. If being a mentor means nurturing our next generation of leaders, inspiring them to want to be leaders in our fantastic industry, making them want to stay and believe that they can succeed, if that's what mentorship is all about, then I accept this award for mentorship with humility and with gratitude. Thank you very much.
Well, this is the 4th year I've had the distinct honor to close this evening. And before we wind things up, I just want to say a couple of things. Number one, the one thing we were remiss in telling you is that the award that each of the recipients got was a compass, just like the one on the cover of the program. And I think it's actually better that we didn't tell you that beforehand, because clearly every one of these people who has received this award tonight has a compass that we should all envy. I'd like to congratulate the Kirchoffner family, John, Nick, Judy, Mike and Shelly. I'll also tell both David and Jack, it took a whole lot of restraint as a member of the board of the Planck Center for me to allow you to be the one to present it to Mike and Shelly, because they are been friends and colleagues. Many of you know a lot of my colleagues, and I couldn't be more proud of the organization that I represent, but I had the distinct pleasure to work directly with Mike and Shelly, and they're everything you saw tonight and more. What all of you recipients have done, both this year and in the past, and I look at my friend Nick Ashew in the back as an example, have done really, really important work in helping young people and helping our profession be more professional because of the giving back that we do. I want to say a special thanks to Jamie Warnett of my office, who is the person that when I am overwhelmed by life helps me make sure that my Planck Center obligations are met. I want to thank Carla Gower and Bruce Berger for bringing me into the University of Alabama family. I think every good Southern school needs a boy from the Bronx. And I would like to also take special thanks to my 2 brothers, Keith Burton and Ron Culp. And is Julia Hood still here? Yes. Julia, if you need 2 people to run the PR Week Awards, these are the guys. Because check out the silence in the room. They're the guys that... Now, I have to admit the silence in the room has something to do with Chicago, and this is a city that's hard not to love. And thank you, Chicago, for continuing to embrace your sister Betsy Planck and the Planck Center. To learn more about the Planck Center, simply go onto the website. I'm not going to speak a lot more about that because it's time for us to all go home. And as far as the young people that are in this room, make sure you walk away with a name. You are in the presence of absolute greatness in this profession. All of the professionals that are here are as good as it gets. So make sure you take a name and maybe even take a mentor. Next year, we'll be celebrating the 5th anniversary on October 30th. I look forward to seeing you all then. Good night and safe home. Oh, actually, wait. One more thing I forgot. So I had lunch today with John Harris, many of you know. John Harris, John, you still here? Okay, so John showed me a picture of himself with Bruce Springsteen and Al Roker. Time out. I'm stepping off this stage right now. I'm getting my picture taken. We'll show you Lazarus. Good night.